He's from that James Vick MMA school of getting knocked out and collapsing like a fucking Star Wars walker AT-AT.
Welcome into Tapping Vegas, brought to you by Better and Green, and today we are breaking down UFC Saudi Arabia, Whittaker versus Aliskerov. Guys, happy Friday. We're happy to kick off this UFC card weekend with you guys. Bobby, how did we do last week?
Yeah, not much to say. Pretty shitty card, but overall, after last week's card, we're still up positive 6 units on the year, so not much to say.
Nope, no sir. So we're going to stay positive. This is a much better card out in Saudi Arabia, so this is going to be one of those fight cards that you really have to look at where these fighters are from, where they've been, if they have the money, if they can go over earlier, because big time difference over in Saudi Arabia. This card, do you have the time that it kicks off, Bobby?
Yeah, so this fight, you're going to have prelims and a main card with the prelims kicking off at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, so adjust accordingly.
Yeah, big difference. All right, Bobby, why don't you get us kicked off with this first fight today?
So we open up with a welterweight fight between Rinat Fakhretdinov versus Nicolas Dalby. This is a pretty interesting fight. Nicolas Dalby, this is his second run in the UFC right now. Rinat Fakhretdinov kind of plagued by inactivity for whatever reason. I know he did have one opponent pull out, so it was kind of his opponent's fault. As for the rest of the fights, not really sure what's going on since he's been in the UFC. Like, for example, his Michael Morales fight in 2022, that was because Morales pulled out, fought Kevin Lee. If you watch that fight, he absolutely dismantled Kevin Lee, like in the very first round. Wasn't even competitive, unfortunately. I'm a Kevin Lee fan, so that was sad to see. Fought Zaleski dos Santos November last year, majority draw. Now he's scheduled to face Dalby, so very inactive career, even though he's been in the UFC for 2 years now, since at least June 4th of 2022. Only managed to have 4 fights here. So very unfortunate timing for him in his career. I mean, he's not exactly old. He's only 32, and he doesn't exactly have a lot of miles, and he only has 1 loss and 1 draw. But still disappointing to see a guy not really be as active in the prime of his career as he could be. So that's unfortunate. Do you like how he has the unanimous decision win over Brian Battle? Brian Battle is pretty well liked on this show, and pretty good fighter, so pretty impressive. So Nicolas Dalby, yeah, I said this is his second UFC run. He basically came in, made his debut in 2015 was his first run in the UFC. Won his debut, split decision, majority draw with Darren Till. Before everybody kind of knew what Darren Till was, it was very impressive to take Darren Till to a majority draw like he did. Then after that, he went on a 2-fight skid, got cut, went to Cage Warriors, went on a tear in Cage Warriors, came back to the UFC in 2019, won his second UFC debut against Alex Oliveira, beat Daniel Rodriguez, lost to Tim Means, and now he's on a 4-fight win streak with wins over Gabriel Bonfim and Muslim Salikov, 2 guys that I'm pretty personally high on. Nice to see him get the win over them, especially with the round 2 finish over Gabriel Bonfim. So this fight's kind of tricky because even though Fakhretdinov's getting the Dagestani push and he's a master of combat sambo and all that good shit that we all know about Dagestanis because it's such a well-known fighting style and so prominent in the UFC right now with multiple practitioners, I'm not going to waste time going into that. You already know what that looks like. You know what that feels like. You know what that fucking smells like. So I'm just going to cut to the chase and focus more on Dalby. Dalby's kind of a point fighter, unfortunately. There's nothing about his striking that just screams finishes. I mean, he only actually has 1 finish in his entire UFC run, and that was surprisingly against Gabriel Bonfim. Everything else is a split or unanimous decision. So it's not like Dalby is out here, taking heads off or body shotting guys till they shit themselves, nothing like that. Unfortunately, he just has a very safe, very conservative style, which is great for shit like going on a 4-fight win streak. But I'm not about to sit here in my fucking comfy office chair and try to pretend to you like it's exciting to watch. It is great for fighting, and that is awesome, and that's fucking fine and dandy. But there is a difference between styles that are great for fighting and exciting, and crossover between them is very crucial to have. And when you do have it, it's very rare. So you fucking glaze it more so than any other style. So, all this to say, current betting odds, courtesy of DraftKings at this moment in time, have Fakhretdinov at a pretty heavy minus 355, Dalby's at a plus 280. Now, because of the sheer mediocrity of this fight, that's what makes it a little befuddling to me why those odds are such a huge disparity, because I really think Fakhretdinov is just getting the Russian Dagestani Sambo boost here, and that's pretty much what it boils down to for me, because beating Kevin Lee, like I said, unfortunately, Kevin Lee was a shell of himself when they fought each other, coming off multiple ACL tears that just never properly healed, multiple surgeries. Zaleski dos Santos going to a majority draw last November with him was very concerning. I try not to do the MMA math. I talk about that shit all the time, but these are just the tangibles that I'm looking at here. And I guess to play it safe, I don't feel comfortable enough in Dalby to really pick him, but it's just like, gosh damn, why is he such a fucking underdog? It's just I can't control that side of me that just wants to take advantage of that. But I guess I'm just going to play it safe, and I'm going to say Fakhretdinov money line. If you just really can't tolerate that and you just really feel in your plums that Nicolas Dalby is going to be that guy at plus 280, I think that just taking the money line would be great, but also considering his career and watch, this would be the one fucking time where I look stupid. I'd be interested to see what the props on Dalby by decision would be, seeing as how he's only finished one fight in the UFC in both iterations of his run. If you're just dead set on Dalby. But me personally, my official analysis is Fakhretdinov money line. I think at least since he's 32 compared to Dalby's 39, that's not a huge age difference, but it's also the difference between, you getting gassed a little bit easier, you having some more miles, some more wear and tear, shit like that. I think Fakhretdinov would get it done. I honestly don't think it'd be exciting. Maybe he could get a sub off Dalby because I've already talked about Dalby's point fighting striking. His grappling's also very much just like control time, just wet blanket type shit. So if he gets kind of careless and just kind of wants to hang on to Fakhretdinov and just kind of try to chill in top position and shit, I could see potentially Fakhretdinov maybe getting a sub on him if he gets a little bit too lazy type thing. But other than that, I kind of think this is going to go to decision, and honestly probably won't be that exciting of a fight. What do you got, Ben?
I'm worried that you're going to be right, Bobby. I really am. I don't have a lot else to add. That's a great breakdown. I'll just add in that right now, Fakhretdinov, 90% of the money, 90% of the bets, 66% of the money. We're seeing quite a bit of sharp money come in on Dalby. I just don't think I can get there with him. I just really don't. Fakhretdinov, dude, he's got the good KO power. I really like his takedowns against the cage, and I think that is probably going to be... I don't think Dalby spends much time on top at all in this fight. I can see... I really want to take a KO or a sub. Like, I really want to do the double method because I feel like Fakhretdinov... I feel like he could get there with those takedowns because when I was watching tape, Dalby really, he could be taken down. That did look like one of the aspects of his game that he struggled with. And he's just such a powerful guy. When he decides to go in and try to get that takedown, he's going to go get it. But I could see this being a decision too. At minus 355, I feel like I have to do something to take that edge off. Oh, man. This is going to be a decision, isn't it?
I firmly believe that it's going to be a decision. I could be fucking wrong, but historically speaking, like I said, Dalby has finished one person in both UFC runs. That was Gabriel Bonfim. That was his last fight. Fakhretdinov has only finished Kevin Lee, and that's been it. And don't be fooled by the guillotine choke win over Kevin Lee. I watched that live. He rocked the ever-loving dog shit out of Kevin Lee with the first punch he threw, which I believe was just a jab. Kevin Lee got sat on his ass up against the fence, shot a takedown to try to recover, and then got caught in the guillotine as he shot the takedown to try to recover from getting knocked on his ass by the jab. And that's his only UFC finish. And that's why it was a guillotine, because it was about to be a KO TKO until Kevin Lee shot the takedown.
I think I'll go the Rinat KO decision double method.
This is Johnny Walker versus Volkan Oezdemir, and the odds on this have dramatically shifted from a few days ago when I last checked. I believe at the time Walker was a pretty decent favorite. Now, honestly, this is exactly where I feel like it should be. It's a straight pick'em at both minus 110. Minus 110 Walker, minus 110 Oezdemir, which is pretty much exactly where I feel like this should operate at. So that's kind of nice to know. Too bad we don't have access to props because that could be a deciding factor in all this. But Johnny Walker is a guy that coming into the UFC had fucking hype full steam ahead. Like one of the biggest hype trains of the fucking 2020s in MMA. That was Johnny Walker. Just brutal first round knockouts of everybody he was running around fucking into in MMA. Fucking breakdancing over their dead bodies and just fucking having a grand old time, coming out to fucking stripper music and shit, just fucking shaking his wiener and shit, just, fucking party boy and having a great time, man. And then all of a sudden he just hit a wall after he came in 2018, brutal finish over Khalil Roundtree, had Khalil Roundtree go on a fucking character arc to Thailand, learn how to combat the fucking Thai plume Johnny Walker put on him and literally come back like a fucking master of Muay Thai and beat the ever-loving shit out of Eric Anders, I believe it was. Fucking murdered Justin Ledet, murdered Mirsha Sukhanov, and then of all fucking people in 2019, he met his match in Corey Anderson, a guy who hasn't been in the UFC in years and got brutally knocked out, lived by the KO, died by the KO in November 2019. And then after that, it was kind of all downhill, very spotty. Lost the unanimous decision in Nikita Krylov, murdered Ryan Spann, lost a boring-ass decision to Thiago Santos, lost to Jamal Hill, subbed Ion Kutalaba, beat Anthony Smith, KO'd Paul Craig, lost to Magomed Ankalaev in his most recent fight. So just kind of all over the place, just a fucking up and down after finishing guys so emphatically from 2018 up until 2019 and in the first round and just dancing over them. Just now he's kind of just a spotty guy where he might win two, lose one, win two, lose one type thing. And and that was a rematch against Magomed Ankalaev because in the first one, he was getting his ass kicked and he got his ass kicked so bad he was concussed and they called the fight. But it was controversial because when they asked Johnny Walker where he was, he said the desert, which was technically true because they were in Abu Dhabi, but I guess it wasn't good enough for the doctor. So when they rematched, Magomed kind of put it to bed and actually knocked his ass out and made him have a fucking jello face as he hit the fucking cage. Volkan Oezdemir, pretty similar guy, very similar story. Came into the UFC in 2017, was touted as light heavyweight 205's next big thing, the man to give Daniel Cormier, who was still in 205 at the time, a run for his money. Maybe he's going to take the belt from him, that type of thing. Beat the dog shit out of Ovince St. Preux, murdered Misha Serkinov. Poor fucking Serkinov. Both of these guys, late Father's Day. Fucking Misha Serkinov's father, unfortunately. Beat the ever-loving dog shit out of Jimmy Manuwa, which at the time wasn't impressive. Anybody could have knocked out Jimmy Manuwa. A fucking fat Samoan bouncer could have done it like BJ Penn, but hey, still murdered the man on live TV in front of his London audience. Got subbed by Anthony Smith. That's our first red flag right there, getting subbed by Anthony Smith in 2018. I know that was around the time Anthony Smith started his like little run, little redemption arc, beating the shit out of Shogun. Still a red flag. After that, KO TKO Dalir Latifi, beat the shit out of Rocket, who at the time was a hot young prospect himself. Then comes up against Yuri Prochaska. Yuri Prochaska knocks him out. And that was kind of like the beginning of the end because Magomed Ankalaev decisioned him to death. He finally beat Paul Craig. Finally lost to Krylov. Beat Bogdan Guskov. We've covered him on the show. That's not that impressive. So similar story of similar guys. Both considered the hot new thing in the division. Both considered the saviors of the division, the fresh blood, the guys that have beat the Daniel Cormiers, the John Joneses of the division, all that shit. Lost that hype, lost that momentum. Ever since then, they're not bad fighters by any means. They're entertaining as hell to watch. They always put on fun fights, and they're always going to give their all, and they're going to actually try to go for the finish, and they don't necessarily have safe styles. And there's certainly a time and a place for these guys in the UFC, but it really is just a pick 'em. It really is a pick 'em, and I'm glad the odds reflect this. A lot of times the odds are fucking ridiculous, and somebody who's a heavy favorite maybe shouldn't be, heavy underdog maybe shouldn't be. This I cannot disagree with at any point. It pretty much is a fucking coin flip, and as a result, I'm just going to coin flip and say Johnny Walker. And I say that actually, now that comes out of my mouth, now I think of all the reasons why it can't be Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker's a glass cannon. If you don't knock out Johnny Walker, he's going to knock out you. Volkan Oezdemir, I don't necessarily know that he's in glass cannon territory. Being knocked out by Yuri Prochaska is nothing to be ashamed of. Yuri Prochaska does hit like a fucking freight train and does have, for how unconventional it is, still good striking. So there's no shame in that. So I can't necessarily say that he's like his chin is shot and all that shit, because I think, at least in the UFC, Prochaska is the only one who's knocked him out anyway, because the other loss to Smith was by sub. So actually, now that I say that, I really think Johnny Walker is going to lose. So I'm going to go with Oezdemir. I'm actually going to say Oezdemir gets his first knockout in a long time, just because of how chinny Johnny Walker is. I hate when people say, "Oh, fighter XYZ's chinny," because that could be true, but it's just like kind of seems like a meme at this point, and people just kind of throw that word around a little bit too fucking much. No, Johnny Walker really is. If he doesn't hit you and you connect with him clean, the motherfucker can't take it. Like, there was one fight on the Brazilian regional scene, he got knocked out 4 times, and each time was more comically ridiculous than the last. He doesn't get knocked out in a normal way. He's from that James Vick MMA school of getting knocked out and collapsing like a fucking Star Wars walker AT-AT. He's wacky flailing inflatable tube man. So I'm going to say Volkan Oezdemir. I'm going to say KO TKO, just because Johnny Walker cannot take a clean fucking shot to save his life like he's a fucking recovering alcoholic.
Bobby, fantastic breakdown. I'm very torn, and you did not help at all. I'm looking at Johnny Walker. He's got that 7-inch reach advantage. But then Vegas has 26% of the bets on Volkan and only 7% of the money. And at a pick 'em, if they can pocket like 93% of the money, like, are you joking?
Who's at 93% of the money?
Johnny.
I just feel like that's because he's the name. Like, people know Johnny Walker from all the memes, from the "where are you at?" the desert shit. Like, Volkan Oezdemir, you got to kind of be a student of the game at this point to know this dude. He's not got that hype. That's just my personal opinion.
Oezdemir is just slower. He's slower, and Johnny Walker's so flowy. Like, I can see this going both ways. And, like, you're right. This is absolutely a pick'em. And the fact that you said that Johnny Walker was... Actually, I think I just talked myself into which way I'm going. He said Johnny Walker was big favorite, and this has got closer to a pick'em. Why is the line moving that much when only 7% of the money's on one guy? Like, why
for Johnny Walker?
Yeah, Johnny Walker, you said he was like minus 135, right? Earlier in the week?
I forget what he was at a few days ago, but a few days ago, I do remember he was a favorite.
Right. And now it's down to 110, but it's going down for him, so you're getting a better price, although he has 93% of the money. Like, that's...
I mean, that's a bit of analysis, but I just really am not high on Johnny Walker for this.
No, that's what I'm saying. That points to Oezdemir.
Yeah.
Why is that line going in Johnny Walker's favor when he's the
I
one giving the
really,
money? If that's the side that everybody's pouring their money in, they want to make that side worse to try to balance it out. They're making
right.
it better. That makes no sense.
I
Hey, so
really think
yeah,
they're
give me
just
Oezdemir.
taking advantage of the name because at this point he still has a name. Oezdemir doesn't. So
Right.
people, if they hear Johnny Walker and they just want to casually bet on this card and they see he's on this card, I feel like it's one of those situations where they're just like, "Oh, Johnny Walker, the guy who fucking knocks everybody out," and it's like, yeah, but do you also watch his last 4 or 5 fights? Have you
Right.
watched since 2020? Because he can also get knocked out. And Magomed Ankalaev is not exactly like he's better than people give him credit for, but he's not exactly some amazing, crazy fucking striker. He's not exactly like a world class, fast twitch, fucking buzzword athlete out here. He's kind of actually, in my humble fucking opinion, in the same vein style of striker as Oezdemir, where you're not exactly relying on like crazy ass, fast twitch, explosive movement to just take
Right.
somebody's head off. You just kind of have some decent power and some decent openings against opponents that are already chinny in this case, a word I'm actually okay with using. One clean shot, because Johnny Walker is not exactly a defensive masterclass type guy in striking. It doesn't take much for Johnny Walker. Like every shot he's hit with, even though it floors him, you see the replay and you're like, that was it. That was what fucking floored him and put him on his ass. And every fucking time it is.
Right. Right. Moving on to this next fight, we've got Kelvin Gastelum versus Daniel Rodriguez, and I hate breaking down Kelvin Gastelum because
Yeah, fuck Kelvin Gas.
he's just one of those dudes, man. It feels like you can never get him right. He's got that knockout power. He wants to stand. He's unpredictable. What version of Kelvin are you gonna get? He's very trained in wrestling. He was state champion and wrestled in college. Rear naked choke is he's a specialist at it. He's very, very good. He makes guys tap quick. Look at Daniel Rodriguez. He strikes from range, so he tries to stay out. He doesn't want to stand in the box and bang. He's got all the aspects. He's pretty resilient. He's a veteran. But I think his weakness is grappling. Right now, Daniel Rodriguez is getting 21% of the bets and 21% of the money. So everything's just hanging tight in this fight. Oh, man. Kelvin Gastelum lately, though, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. He's got the reach disadvantage. They're both pretty close in age. And still, I can't believe I'm going to say it, but it's like Bogdan Guskov. I just keep picking against him, and then he just keeps winning these last couple times. I feel like I picked... I don't know. I have to go Kelvin Gastelum. I hate doing it. And I can absolutely see Daniel Rodriguez winning. But if Kelvin can show up like he's supposed to, and he can, I think Kelvin, at this stage in their career, I think Kelvin's better than Daniel. What do you think, Bobby?
There's an old saying in Tennessee, maybe it's Texas or Tennessee. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, fuck the peace sign, load the chopper and let it rain on you. Last fight I covered for this show with Kelvin Gastelum was the Sean Brady fight, December of last year, in which Kelvin Gastelum got absolutely fucking manhandled by Sean Brady
Yeah.
and fucking viciously Kimura to a submission that's very fucking rare in professional mixed martial arts at the UFC level,
Yeah.
which is kind of bizarre because, I mean, it's a perfectly valid submission and all that good shit, but for some reason it's just one of those low percentage things, and he got fucking Kimura to death by Sean Brady. I said after that fight that I am never going to fucking put money on Kelvin Gastelum again. I'm never picking that motherfucker, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the goddamn things that I said after about Kelvin Gastelum. And you know what? I stand by it. I
Good
stand
for
by it
you.
in this case, and here's why I stand by it. Right now, according to DraftKings, here's going to be probably your steal of the week. You're fucking take the money and run like the song. Kelvin Gastelum's a minus 245. Rodriguez is a plus 200. The only conceivable thing I can do fucking Goodwill Hunting math in my head to calculate why in the fuck these odds are so fucky and Rodriguez is a plus 200 right now is simply because this is his first fight back from pissing hot for Osterin. So he had to serve a 6-month suspension for that. That is the only thing that makes sense. Plus, his last 2 fights, he is on a skid. He got Darce choked by Magny 2022. Head kick finished by Machado Gary May of last year. Concerning things, don't get me wrong, very concerning, but also nice that he beat Li Jiangling, pretty decent guy in the division. We've already covered Kevin Lee, even though it was a unanimous decision win, not impressed. Mike Perry was a decent win. Dwight Grant, I almost fucking choked how surprised I was. He beat Dwight Grant, KO punches. That was a very good win back in 2020. Don't know who Gabe Green is. Choked out Tim Means. That was a good debut win. So, yeah, between the inactivity, between just the unpredictability, between the laziness, that's been one of his biggest things is just lazy, like missing weight. Should truthfully probably be better suited at 170 where he started his career and honestly should have stayed had he been more disciplined with his diet and been in better shape and his workout routines and shit. Moved up to 185 just because of a lack of that discipline, wanting to constantly cheat, not cut weight, etc., all that shit. And just like not, I guess, mentally showing up. Like he is the hottest and coldest motherfucker currently still active in the UFC because he was the first guy to ever take Israel Adesanya to a hard-fought loss for Gastelum. Israel won. But gosh damn, it was a back and forth, brutal fight. First guy to ever do that to Adesanya. And then he loses to Darren Till. Loses to Jack Hermanson. Beats Ian Heinisch. Loses to Robert. Loses to Jared Cannonier. Beats Chris Curtis. Loses to Sean Brady. Just absolutely insane. And I don't think there's going to be some magic pill or some magic potion to take him from 17-9-1 right now because it's going to be after this weekend 17-10-1. And I think this is probably the end of his UFC run. And if Rodriguez loses, it might be the end of his run too. Both of these guys are coming off some pretty nasty skids right now. It's just this is the first skid that Daniel Rodriguez has had in his entire career. This is his first time losing 2 fights back-to-back. Kelvin Gastelum has found himself in this position multiple times now at this point. As a matter of fact, this is his This is like damn near his 3rd time finding himself in this position. If it wasn't for the Nate Marquardt win and between the Neil Magny loss by split decision and the Tyron Woodley loss by split decision, this would have been the 3rd time Gastelum finds himself in this situation. It's new for Rodriguez. It's not new for Gastelum. And like I said, with odds that fucking tantalizing, cash register noises, a wooga, fucking tongue rolling out of my mouth, Rodriguez money line can't be beat.
I like it, man. I mean, I would liked it better if you said Gastelum, but I like that you're putting your meat on the table and standing by it. How about you break down this next fight? This looks like it would be the perfect headlining event or a perfect headlining fight for like a fight night. But we get it as the co-main.
Yeah, this is honestly good enough to be a standalone. Sergei Pavlovich versus Alexander Volkov. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It would be a great headliner by itself, but it's nice to be thrown onto a card that kind of needs a little bit of a boost. Pavlovich minus 205, Volkov plus 170. Pavlovich is going to be the guy I go with on this. I'm going to try to keep this one short. I don't feel like there's much to kind of dissect with this one. Pavlovich has the momentum. He's the younger guy up until Tom Aspinall KO'd him. He was the guy KO'd everybody. Did it to Curtis Blades. Did it to Tai Tuivasa. Did it to Derek Lewis. Did it to Shamil. Who else did he do it to? Maurice Green, Marcelo Gom. Like, since he came in the UFC, dude was just, like, not even fucking coming out of round 1. Oh, excuse me. He lost his debut to Alistair Overeem. That was his only blemish up until Tom Aspinall. and he was just murking motherfuckers. And he's just kind of like that prototypical Dolph Lundgren fucking Russian boxing guy that you just kind of envision when you think of a Russian boxer, well, primary boxer. 32, not very old. Even though Ospinall just TKO'd him, no shame in that. It's not really something that I feel like is going to set back or ruin his career. I think he will easily be able to bounce back from that because Tom does that to 99% of the division right now. Not as big of an age gap as I thought. Figured Volkov would be approaching 40 at this time. He's only 35. Very shocked because Volkov does have a lot of miles. 37 wins, 10 losses. Been in the UFC for a very long time now. Been in the UFC since 2016. So, yeah, he's actually on a 3-fight win streak right now. Submitted Tai Tuivasa, TKO'd Romanov. That was very impressive. TKO'd Rosenstrike, lost to Aspinall. Once again, no shame there. Beat Tybura, lost to Cyril Gahn. Those are kind of like some big names. Beat Greg Hardy. Always nice to see Greg Hardy get his ass kicked. Obviously, he was the meme knockout that Derek Lewis scored against him, unfortunately. That was the Balls was hot episode. That was Volkov who was the victim of that. All that to say, kind of my biggest X factor with this, odds are good, minus 205 for Pavlovich. I feel like, if anything, it should be one of the heaviest betting favorites on the card. Volkov's at plus 170. Can't disagree with that, other than should maybe be a little heavier for Pav. My biggest thing is I saw this on social media. These guys are both Russian, not to have stereotypes out there, but apparently it is verified that they are pretty friendly with each other and possibly even trained together before extensively, that type of shit. So somebody brought up an interesting question. When you have two guys who are pretty friendly with each other and they don't have any bad blood, are they going to be more apt to make it go the distance? Or are they just going to, put all that to the side, just accept that it's a friendly, fair fight, go in there, do what they have to do, whatever happens, happens. The only immediate example I can think of in my head that stands out to me of two friends or two people on cordial terms fighting each other in recent memory for me would be Justin Gaethje versus Donald Cerrone. And Justin Gaethje had a little bit of a problem knocking out Donald Cerrone because the first time he put him on his ass and Donald Cerrone went to his knee and tried to get back up and Justin followed up with shots, he was actually getting a little pissed off. The ref wasn't calling it earlier because he was a little upset. He was having to beat the shit out of his friend when he felt like the fight was already over. But I don't really know where that's going to translate into this fight. I don't know if they're going to be able to put it to the side or if Pavlovich is just going to come out there with the same round one, I want to KO, TKO this guy mentality. I'm going to say he probably does, though. Hopefully that takes the edge off him being at the minus line right now. So I'll just go Pavlovich KO, TKO. This is a good test for him. Volkov's no pushover, especially being on a 3-fight streak right now with the guys he's been on a 3-fight streak against. But just like he's been there before with these streaks, he can also be the guy who's going to be on the losing streak here soon. And with all the miles that he has, I feel like Sergei's the fresher guy. Even though it's only by 3 years, it's a lot less miles he has, better reflexes, better fast twitch explosive attributes and shit that just isn't really in Volkov's repertoire. Like Volkov either gets wrestle fucked, brutally knocked out, or if he can't be knocked out or wrestle fucked, he just kind of point fights. And I don't think Pavlovich is going to want a point fight. I think he's going to come back in there. He's going to hopefully be hungry like he was after his defeat to Alistair Overeem in his debut. He's going to have something to prove, and he's going to want to re-cement himself as a top guy in the division by, unfortunately for Volkov, finishing his best friend, no homo.
No diddy.
Yeah, no diddy.
If you go back to that video, I was pretty high on Pavlovich beating Tom Aspinall. Didn't happen, but I'm going to stay on the Pavlovich train here with you. The dude, I know their sizes aren't this vastly different. I looked it up. I think 266 is the limit for heavyweight. It said Volkov is 263. The dude just, he doesn't look it. his walking around weight is probably 263. He doesn't have to cut. Whereas Pavlovich, he just looks huge to me. Like, he looks like one of those guys that probably does have to cut to make the 266 weight. They're both in very, very good shape for the division. I'll give them that. Pavlovich, I think he's got some really fast hands and better KO power than Volkov. Good movement for Sergei. Looking at Volkov, he's a lot slower and methodical. Like, that's his fight style. He wants to find his openings and get you here and there. I just think Sergei is just going to overwhelm him. I'm going to stick with the money line at minus 205. But also looking at it, 90% of bets are on Sergei and 92% of money. So everybody else is on Sergei too. But, I mean, I think Volkov has a chance to win. I think he is a live dog, but I'm pretty high on Pavlovich in that division. I think he could be champ one day. So I'm going to continue riding him here.
Hey, I don't blame you. I think that's pretty solid. Pretty solid analysis.
Well, let's get to the main fight of the night out in Saudi. We got Robert Whittaker versus Ikram Aliskerov. Unfortunately, it fell through with Hamzat Chimaev. It looks like he's going to be okay. He's out of surgery now. He had to get add a dick to him. But he should be all right. He should be fully recovered in time to fight here in about 4 years. Robert Whittaker, he's a warrior, man. He's experienced. He's fought the top of the competition. He wants to stay standing, but he's got elite defense. He's a killer, man. He'll go after you and he'll finish you. No diddy. Ikram Aliskerov, he's got some knockout power. He actually is a pretty good striker for being one of the Russian guys. One of these Dagestani dudes. He's a sub-artist, good grappler. He's got dangerous hands. Actually, he is right now the betting favorite. As in, he has 51% of the bets. But Robert Whittaker, 49% of the bets. So still not a huge difference. But Aliskerov getting Whittaker on short notice. I was a little surprised starting off that he's getting the public bets. But like I said, Whittaker, 49% of bets, but 68% of the money. And that's the side that I'm going to be on too. Robert Whittaker, just one of the best to ever do it. I know he's kind of starting to age out of the sport. He's only 2 years older than Ikram. The range, their reach, pretty close, similar. There's not a lot different. The only edge, and usually, you know how I am with my Dagestani guys. I usually go with them, especially if they have that wrestling edge and they're going against a guy who's not much of a grappler. But I just think Robert Whittaker's different, and I'm going to go with Robert. And that's not like me, but I am today. What do you think, Bobby?
Yeah, I can't disagree with you on this, surprisingly. I was very curious to see what the odds on this would be. Surprised that they are this close. I was kind of hoping to take advantage of people fading Whittaker, so to say. I was kind of hoping that Whittaker would be a heavier underdog because of the Dagestani hype, because of Aliskerov being the younger guy. Like, he's got a hype train behind him right now with a pretty small but vocal cult-like following. And I was hoping to take advantage of that, but unfortunately, as of right now, unless odds drastically change, it doesn't look like that will be occurring. But yeah, Whittaker only since his middleweight run, because he was another guy like Gastelum that started off at 170, but not because he was, undisciplined in his diet and shit like Gastelum, but because he truly was depleting himself so much at 170 that after Stephen Thompson TKO'd him, he moved up one fight after that. He had one more fight at 170, decided, fuck it, middleweight's where I need to be in 2014, and he stayed at middleweight ever since, and it's been a huge benefit to him since moving up. And since moving up, he's only ever lost to the absolute elite of the division, Israel Adesanya twice and Duplessis once. So all that to say, Whittaker, the grappling is the X factor, because for all of Whittaker's hype around his grappling, how underrated people say his grappling is and things of that nature, we don't really see it get challenged a lot. That's why it was so shocking that DDP the guy who nobody saw it coming, that he was actually a pretty good grappler with some sneaky fucking entries and everything that people just were not fucking aware of, was able to damn near sub him after knocking him down with the strike and everything and setting up the TKO. Very surprising that it was DDP to kind of expose that, because not even Yoel Romero really pressed that issue too much. Everybody was just kind of touting, oh, Robert Whittaker in his spare time likes to do Australian Commonwealth wrestling matches and shit. So that's kind of the biggest X factor. Is his grappling bad? Was it just because he was rocked that DDP was able to take advantage and have a pretty nifty little pass to set up that TKO finish, that type of thing? Like, what really was going on there with that DDP loss? But I don't think it's strong enough of an X factor to warrant Aliskerov being a heavy favorite. I mean, this is going to be a make or break fight for him to see if he has that elite potential. But I just think as of right now, like you said, there's not much to disagree with. And right now, the gold standard is still Robert Whittaker, and he is like the elite of the elite at keeping the gate. So, yeah, Robert Whittaker, I'll just take money line on that, I think, to be safe. Aliskerov probably is a tough guy who probably will be hard to knock out or submit. I could probably easily see it being a decision, and I hate to say it, but probably a relatively boring decision, because Whittaker is an exciting guy and he does put on exciting fights, but he's also not the type to do anything other than that textbook karate boxing style, which is known for that in and out, hit, don't get hit movement. And obviously, if it leads to a finish, he's going to take it, but he's not exactly, getting the finish a lot lately in his fights and shit like that. And it's not exactly like he has ungodly power, but he will just dismantle and pick the fuck apart his opponent for all 5 rounds, like he did to Jared Cannonier, for example. Just didn't get the finish, but just absolutely fucking dismantled him, broke Cannonier's forearm, bruised the shit out of his ribs, like stuff like that for 5 rounds for 25 minutes. So I think he'll probably end up in a similar situation to Aliskerov. If Aliskerov's not making a name off Robert Whittaker like DDP did, then he's going to be in for a long night. He's just going to get systematically picked apart and just fucking – I don't think he'll get finished, but he'll just get his ass beat kind of like Cannonier style, where he just gets really fucking injured and just tore up.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that happening too. That almost feels like the route that we're going to go down, but we'll have to see what happens on Saturday. It's going to be Saturday night. It's going to be closer to Saturday afternoon, really. Bobby, what do you think for the haymaker this week?
Haymaker's tough. Let me go back through. I have one in mind immediately, but let me go back through right quick and check out the odds one last time before I commit. Because the one that immediately stands out to me. So it was between, based off what I picked in terms of who's going to win and all that type of shit, it was between the Jordan Luderbach, Santos, whatever you want to call him, between him or Daniel Rodriguez. But as of right now, it's plus 205 for Jordan, plus 200 for Rodriguez. That's not a huge enough discrepancy to make, from a number standpoint, one more enticing. But I have a lot more faith in Magomedov being able to win that fight than I do Gastelum being able to win his fight. So I'm going to say Daniel Rodriguez plus 200 money line is going to be my haymaker, because I feel like that has the most potential to actually occur. Even though it's not at the plus 205, it's plus 200. But I could see Shara winning his fight. Bar fucking Triple H underneath the octagon with a fucking sledgehammer throwing it into Kelvin Gastelum, or fucking Mankind drop elbowing Daniel Rodriguez in the fucking ACL backstage before he walks out, or getting set on fire like gold dust because he crashed into the speaker equipment. I don't see Kelvin Gastelum winning that fight, man. I'm going to just keep it funky and fresh with you and minty, and I don't see fucking Kelvin Gastelum having a goddamn snowball's chance in hell. Shara could win the fight. It's pretty much a tailor-made fight for him. Kelvin just has, I feel like, nothing left. I would love to be wrong, because as a person I like him, and as a fighter he was a guy who I always rooted for and I always enjoyed his boxing and tried to learn from his boxing and shit into my own style. But just as a current year fucking UFC fighter, I'm like, oh, fucking Oliver, the late night TV show host. It's current year. Fucking crowd shits their pants and starts drooling with laughter. Like, it's current year Gastelum.
Yeah.
Current year fucking Gastelum has like no fight in him, no desire to turn his career around. It's honestly too late. He's hungry, but he doesn't have the hunger for the belt. Like, I just don't see it. I just really fucking can't. I'm Ray Charles.
I love it, Bobby. I love it. So we gave you guys some picks for this upcoming card. Bobby, anything left before we get out of here?
No, just follow along on Twitter. If you're interested in fantasy football, might start having some fantasy football content on my channel for you as well. Ben always comes through with the great takes on fantasy football. Going to be doing a mock draft here soon. So if you're interested in mock drafting with us for fantasy football purposes, reach out on Twitter to Ben or myself, and let's get that started. And let's grow the fantasy football community. Let's grow Better and Green, and let's also make some money together along the way as a result.
Yes, sir, man. Good stuff. Good stuff. If you haven't already bought your stuff for your draft, if you guys like doing those live drafts, which is what we do, what we love to do, why don't you guys head over to draftkits.co. Use our code BIG24. That's BIG24. You guys are going to get 10% off. Already, they're pretty cheap, so you're getting 10% off. Like, I wouldn't go. If I'm getting a draft kit, I'm not going anywhere else. Plus, they have the best stickers in the game. Me and Bobby, we've used them for years, and we love them. Make sure also pre-order the draft guide, the Better Green Fantasy Football Draft Guide for this year. Right now, $10 if you want to pre-order it. It comes out July 19th. Make sure you guys get in on that. A lot of good material in there, guys. It's around 140 pages currently at the moment. It's just a masterpiece. It's a book of love for fantasy football from us to you guys. So make sure you check that out over on bettergreen.com along with the articles. We will see you guys later. Peace, guys.
Peace.
You better start listening to the Better and Green podcast. You will not regret it. Trust me, trust me, trust me. And hey, I'm Dean Blandino.
Welcome to Better and Green, eh? To Better and Green, eh? To Better and Green, eh? Listen in and cash out. That's what it's all about. Come on, let's make cash now. We always on spot and we cover all spot from the bottom to the top. Hey, shout out to Ethan, shout out to Wyatt, shout out to Ben. Welcome to our podcast, Better and Green.